Hey, what's going on, guys? Happy Friday to you. Welcome to another episode of Access Omaha. Thanks so much for tuning in. Excited for another episode. Got my man Ryan Potter in the house, of course. And we have a pretty cool guest today that I'm very excited to introduce. And happy he's going to come on, share some knowledge with us today, talk about relationships, lots of big things. My man Mr Rodgers over here. Mark actually is with Core Bank. He's an employee of Core Bank and actually one of the business development relationship managers here at the bank. So just a fantastic human being. Really great at networking, making relationships. So he's going to talk to us a little bit about that today. So that's kind of how Mark and I got connected, is through the bank here, and just developed a little bit of a relationship, continue to grow that on a daily basis. And so we're going to get into it. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite.
Awesome to have you.
Right on. Hey, Mark, why don't we get kicked off here, and why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background? Like, where did you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Do you have a family? All that kind of good stuff, you know.
I have a family.
Right on.
So we moved here when I was about 6 years old. So my running joke is that I wasn't born here, but I was bred here. To a military family. So Dad got stationed at Offutt.
Yeah, very common here in Omaha.
It seems to be that way.
Yep.
What even seems to be more common is that people get stuck here afterwards. Right?
That's true.
People
True.
get stationed here, and then people retire here, and so the rest of the family stays along with them. But moved here when I was about 6 years old. We were like the third house in our neighborhood out in Papillion.
Yeah.
Out there. I have two older brothers and an older sister, so I'm the baby of the family.
Okay.
Oh, the spoiled one.
We share that.
It's weird. I never got any of
We share that,
the
you and I.
stereotypical spoiling that a baby should get. If anything, my parents figured out by the time they got to the fourth exactly how to do it.
Oh, yeah.
I had the most strict childhood.
No.
But moved here when I was about 6. I'm a product of Papillion Public Schools. So
Okay.
There we go. Shout out Papillion.
If there's anything you like or dislike, it's their fault for sure. Stuck around, actually. So I went to college actually out at UNO, graduated with a degree in political science, intending to go on to law school. Had my LSAT scheduled junior year, just couldn't bring myself to actually go sit for it. So wasted a couple $100, but it is what it is. It worked out okay in the end. At the time I was, 20, I think. Would have been 20, if my math is right.
We're old.
As a banker, if my math is right, I was about 20 years old at the time, and I wasn't sure. We have some family friends that are attorneys, and they're in private practice, and I was sort of, kind of jokingly, kind of seriously asking myself the question, like, were they attracted to the industry because they're not the best people in the world?
Right.
Or did the industry make them the people they are today?
Yeah.
And at the time, it was one of those things where it's like, I just don't know if I want to find out either way. I mean, it doesn't matter. I just don't think I want to do that. And then as I was starting my senior year, so I was working in restaurant kitchens. That was all I'd done, really, from 15, just turning 16. And
Work in the kitchen or more like on the host serving?
kitchen.
Oh,
I was
okay.
a kitchen
Nice.
bum for
Whoa.
6 years. Oh, yeah, it was wild. But
I'm sure it was.
Oh, no, it was. It was. Looking back, it was actually a lot more fun than I think I gave it credit for at the time. But I was living in an apartment. Have you guys gone into the history ever of Core Bank, or like where Core Bank started?
Ish,
like
but you could educate our listeners a little bit better than I could.
Okay.
So.
Well, this plays the only reason I ask is because it plays a role in how I got here.
Okay.
So Core Bank used to be. Do you have to look at the camera, by the way?
No, you're
I'm
fine.
making it weird now.
No.
Core Bank used to be two separate locally owned institutions. So it used to be Centennial Bank, which was originally Ashland State Bank, and prior to that it was Sap City Bank. Started out of Ashland.
Gotcha.
And as you can imagine, owned by the Sap family. The other half, the other contingency in Core Bank was Omaha
State Bank. Yep.
Both of them had some common ownership. There were some events that transpired back in 2011, 2012 that led the majority ownership that was common between the two to examine their leadership structure.
Yeah. He's
time.
putting that very politically correct.
So prior to the merger, though, and those events transpiring, I was going into my senior year of college, and I actually lived in an apartment complex across the street from one of the locations at Centennial Bank.
Okay.
So if I said Centennial, it wouldn't have made a lot of sense to most people. But I lived in an apartment complex right across the street. I mean, literally could see it out my living room window, like right across 144th Street from it. And I was in the kitchen working with a couple of guys, some of which I'm still friends with today. So like I said, it was a better time than I gave it credit for while I was going through it. But there was one guy who's about 45, worked in the kitchen with me. And he knew knew that I was finishing up school, and he made some joke about being
What was
there
it?
forever.
Do you remember the joke?
I can't. But he made some joke about being there forever, effectively, right? And I don't know what it was about the way that he said it, but the way that he delivered it made me stop. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This guy's right.
Uh-huh.
I have to leave today. Literally the next day I put in my notice.
Whoa.
No job lined up.
Wow.
I'm not going to be in a kitchen anymore.
It just
whatever
rang.
I was doing. Yeah, whatever I was doing. I didn't care what it was. It just was not going to be in a kitchen.
Yep. Wow.
So I went home. I saw the bank across the street. And I applied online.
That's awesome.
He's like, what am I going to do now? Oh, I'm just
I guess I'm gonna go
drinking my morning
I'm just
coffee.
gonna go over there.
As a banker.
I guess
Okay.
I'm going to be a banker.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a cool story. I like it.
Very cool.
I told you it was
You know?
cool and how unexciting it was, right?
It is.
Right.
Nothing spectacular.
Yeah, man, that's very interesting. So I guess as far as getting into banking now, so fast forward, this is when you're right out of college, right? So now you start being, what, a personal banker? What capacity did you start working in the bank?
So I started actually as a part-time teller while I was finishing up my senior year of college. So I was doing like 30 hours a week while I finished my classes down at UNO. And then right after I graduated, so May was sort of around the time where the merger was beginning to become more clear.
Okay.
And I got offered a position as a personal banker at one of the, what was then Omaha State Bank locations.
Okay.
And took it. I was there for about 2 months when I approached Lindsay, who's actually still my boss, oddly enough, about moving to their headquarters at the time. And then I just kind of, I don't want to say I got stuck there. They got stuck with me there for sure. Because I was out at that headquarters location in some capacity or another for about 5.5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Being a personal banker?
I was a personal banker for about 1.5 to 2 years. And
Okay.
then I moved into the assistant management position at that branch. And then I was the branch manager for about 1.5 years.
Okay.
So assistant manager for about 1.5 years, branch manager for about 1.5 years. And then during the later half probably of that branch management position, realized that I'm not much of an office guy. I don't really enjoy sitting at a desk a lot, as little as possible if I have my way. And I don't necessarily enjoy doing, I guess I feel it's always tedious work if it's at a computer. I enjoy being out, meeting people, the whole rubbing hands, shaking elbows. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot like us. Yep, that's why I think we like our jobs a lot,
No
as we
doubt.
get out and get to, there's times where we have to be behind a computer, but for the most part, it's nice because it's like mobile, right? So like you can take it with you. I can go work from a scooters, or I can go work from wherever and still get work done.
Right.
And not be locked down to like a cubicle. 'Cause
Right.
I'm like you, bro. I'd like go insane.
Oh yeah, drives me nuts.
So, okay, so tell us more about, like, so now how old are you when you're at this branch, and then is there a moment in time where it was like, now it's time for me to, like, look at this other role or this other, like, was there, I think it's, some people look at it this way when it's like a bank too, in like corporate world of like climbing the ladder, right? Of like, okay, let's move up to this. I've been here 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, and then now I want to do this. Like, was any of those thoughts or going through your head as you were kind of sitting there at the bank, and what'd that look like? Walk us through that process.
That's a good question. I actually don't know if I've ever been asked that question in a serious capacity.
Going deep.
I think yes. I think people would be lying if they said no, right? I mean, at some point, if you've been in a role long enough, you have to accept that you'll never master a role, right? But you can get to the point where maybe you don't get as much value out of certain things as you once did.
Right.
And I hit that point with the personal banker role about 2 years in, transitioned to that assistant manager role. So I would have been 23 at the time.
Okay. Young
I
for
was
an
there
assistant
for
manager.
about 1.5 years, roughly. And so I would have been 24 to 25 when I took over as the manager at the location. And again, the assistant manager role sort of mirrored the personal banker role in that regard, where it was, I mean, there were some other factors involved, right? I mean, luck's always a piece of it, right? Right place, right time thing. But somebody was no longer with the organization and left an opening, and it was one of those things where you just kind of step up, fill the role for a while while they're searching, and then eventually the search resulted in me getting the spot anyway. And with the branch management role, it was one of those things, it was a little insidious. I don't know if I quite realized what was happening. I don't know if I knew that I disliked sitting at a desk as much as I did.
You didn't realize it at the time, at
Yeah.
least, but it was there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know, I think. And sitting at a desk was all I'd known before that, right? I mean, that was 99% of what I did for the 4.5, 5 years leading up to that. And I don't think I quite realized how much I would enjoy being out. Very naturally, I'm an introverted person. It's surprising.
Interesting.
Oh, really?
Very naturally, I'm an introverted person. So if you ever bump into me outside of like this or work, it's pulling teeth to talk to me.
Okay.
I promise you. But
I'm going to remember that.
It's tough sometimes, trust me. But I realized really early on working at the bank that wasn't really, it doesn't work, right? I mean, being in a customer-facing position, being in a relationship-building position, you can't be that introverted.
Right.
So I couldn't have my cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't be away from a desk.
The magic
and still be
happens
introverted.
outside of the comfort zone.
It does. It very much does. That's where all the growth happens, right? That's where all the value gets found, you know? But it was one of those things where I realized early I couldn't have my cake and eat it too. I couldn't stay introverted as I wanted to, but also be out of the office. At that point, I'm basically just unemployed, I think. And
That's funny.
And so about a year into my role as the manager out at the former headquarters, I started to just get out. I mean, it was just getting out and cold calling. And that's literally all it was. It was just cold calls. There was no rhyme or reason to it. It was just, hey, there's a strip of businesses right there. Let's pop on in. They probably haven't heard of us.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how it all started. And from there, it became a little bit more organized. The efforts became a little bit more concerted. Started getting some more strategic partnerships put in place, internally speaking, where we were able to leverage relationships that were maybe already existing. So that way I didn't have to.
It wasn't such a cold thing.
Yeah, it gave us some warm lead-ins, right? So that way it's not always me starting a relationship from the ground up. It's who do we have that can help us with this?
Leveraging who you know.
Yeah, always, right? I mean, you got to use the clients you have to get the clients you want.
Right.
So.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
That is good stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's interesting because it's a common theme we talk about, every other podcast where we dive into why relationships are so important and how, utilizing your sphere and people that you know and use the clients that you have to get the clients that you want, things like that, just to try to not only personal growth, but business development and business growth, which is a lot of what your role is. I think it's just so powerful. And, Mark uses that every single day. We do too in our jobs and our careers and what we do as well. And it's always surprises me, I guess it shouldn't, but it always surprises me how common of a theme it is, how important those relationships really are. Tell us a little bit about what you do in your role, though, for people who may be interested to find out or, potentially might come across you in your field and your job title here. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what that looks like.
Sure. I think it's not easy to answer in one sentence or paragraph, right? I don't even know if we have enough time left on this to answer it thoroughly. Realistically, I've always oversimplified it and said that for business owners, you're the business owner, right? Whatever industry you're in, if you're a contractor, you're the contractor. You should focus on doing that work.
Yep.
Let the bank be the bank. Let your banker be your bank.
Right.
Let them do their job. My job is to make sure in every regard that they're taken care of, whether it's a borrowing need, whether it's a cash management need, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, my job in an abstract way is representing the bank as well as the bank can be represented.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
You're kind of I hate the phrase, but you're kind of a brand ambassador in a lot of ways. It is making sure that what we have laid out as our vision comes to life more so than anything else.
So working with existing clients in the bank to try to optimize their businesses through the services and products that we already offer, whether it's business related, personal, whatever. We have a lot of strategic things, so I'm sure that you get to help out and get to meet a lot of cool people and do a lot of cool things. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. So tell us, maybe give us some interesting stories or things that you've come across in your role at the bank. Anything, something that pops out.
Interesting stories.
Yeah.
Gosh, how boring am I?
Put him on the spot.
Have any interesting stories.
Who's the coolest person you ever met?
Coolest person I've
In
ever
your role.
met in my role.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Any of them.
The right answer would have been, well, he's sitting at this table.
Oh my
God.
Talk about a faux pas, man. Gosh, I'm a guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
I should know better. I really don't know. I mean, honest to goodness, I posted this on LinkedIn once, right? Kind of as a joke, kind of as a serious thing. People are always asking, like, what what markets do you find that you work well with, right? What does your ideal business look like?
Yep.
And it's not any particular industry or line of business. It's more about, I think you and I talked about this once.
We did.
It's getting the right people, right? I want cool people, pretty relaxed people. I just want good people that have a business.
Yep.
That's it. Somebody that we can bring some value to. I'm very convinced that we as a bank, as an institution, can bring value to almost any business probably in our market or in the sectors that we play in. But realistically, I want good people. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no particular line of business.
There's a lot of them out there, but sometimes they're hard to find.
You have to be conditioned to a longer and slower sales cycle when you're looking for the right people. But I think at some point, as an institution and just as a team, right, like the treasury team, a real estate team, you get to be picky and choosy. You get to pick who you want to work with. You don't have to take everybody that comes knocking on the door. Nobody does. It's just not everybody realizes that they're in a position to pick who they want to work with.
Right.
Yep.
You could probably speak into that even a little bit.
Well, it's interesting because it's, as I'm in the position to like grow my team and stuff with like real estate, like there's numerous people that reach out and that want to become a part of what you're doing, right? And but a lot of times it's, Cass knows this because she's obviously walked through this with me, but there's a system that everyone goes through. Before you even get to sit down and have coffee with me, like there's a system, and we kind of use like the airplane model, where it's like, in order for that person, when you're flying out of the airport, you go through airport security, right? And so like our security checkpoints are like, are they hungry? Are they humble? Are they smart? And are they coachable? So we have to ask ourselves that question when that first person reaches out or whatever and says like, hey, I want to come join your team. It's, we have to ask those questions. Whoever knows that person, are they hungry? Are they humble? Are they smart? And are they coachable? And if they're not, then they don't make it through security checkpoint, right?
I love that.
And if they do make it through security checkpoint, that doesn't mean that it's the right fit for your team yet, So now it's, you make it through security checkpoint and we're on the same flight, but are we going to the same destination? And so it's like, is that person going to fit well or mesh well with our team if they're going to be in an administrative role or if they're going to be a real estate agent that comes on the team, and do they mesh well with everyone? And then if we can say yes to that and, their personality test proves that, then it's time to be like, okay, now it's time to go sit down with this person, have coffee with them, figure out what their goals are, what they want to do, what they see themselves doing in the future, and really break down like, okay, is this person going to fit our model and what we're doing,
right.
And so it's like you said, it's important to know what you're looking for and know what's going to mesh well with the team that you're trying to create, and you're not just throwing somebody into this culture that they get 3-4 months in and they're like, I feel alone, I feel like this team is a family and I'm not included. They start feeling all these things, and it's like, well, maybe they weren't the right person to bring in to the team because they're not meshing well with everyone. And sometimes, you got to work with that person and you don't know until you get in. But most of the time you can rid yourself of that whole experience if you just have the right process set in place as you're going through that. So,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand and get that. And it's fun actually to be in that role where it's like, we get to pick and choose, like, who gets to come and be a part of it now. It's not like I just go down to the board and I'm like, all right, there's 30 people here that just got their license. Who wants to come on board? Like, open up the floodgates. Like, no, that's not smart and it's not wise. So yeah, tell us, so as it relates to that with you and as you think about some of those things, like, and even maybe core bank as in general, and think about like, how does that model or the way, your experience been through that, and then obviously, if there's any role of recruiting or talking to other people and bringing them on, like, how does that fit, or that process, like, what's that thought process too from like your standpoint and other people that you've talked to in leadership positions here, as far as, we talk about climbing that ladder, but do you know if there's specific things that like they're looking for, when they're creating roles, they're bringing people on, or is it just kind of like, all right, this person's worked here long enough, we already know that they're going to be in that role and fit well in that role. Like, how did that work out with you you're making that transition or that light bulb moment of like, I think I'm ready to get out of this current position and move into the BD position and be here now. And what was that kind of like process for you as you thought, that role fits well with me?
Right.
Or who approached you maybe that said, hey, maybe we'd like to put you in this role, and you're like, oh, okay.
I think it's a multitude. It's actually a pretty complicated answer, truth be told. First, I love Pat Lencioni, by the way. So the humble, hungry, smart thing. I like that you bring coachable to it because I think a lot of people miss that. You could be humble, hungry, and smart.
I thought that was straight organic from him. I love that you knew where it came from.
Absolutely. No.
I made that up on the spot. Pat stole it from him.
Yeah.
And then cut the coachable off, actually. I think that's how it worked. I read there was a lawsuit once. But realistically, I think this place values culture fit over almost everything else. And I don't, this is where it's going to get a little bit nebulous, right? I don't necessarily mean the culture that we have today, but the culture that we aspire to have.
Yeah.
That's good.
So a big part of what this bank was, and will be, I think, is the brand that they put together when this merger was happening. So when the merger happened,
the vision for the brand.
Absolutely. And you've seen it on the website. If you've ever been to the website, or if you haven't been to the website, corebank.com, go to it, check it out. It's a pretty concise explanation of what we envision ourselves to be, right? I mean, the tagline is something remarkable that just happens to be a bank, right?
Yeah.
And that's really it. I mean, they are focused on being spectacular, and then we happen to be a financial institution, right? I mean, the focus is doing good work and doing a lot of good work. So the focus is really just being prideful in what you do, I think. And so institutionally and internally speaking, their focus is culture fit above all else. To me specifically, I was approached by my current supervisor about on an interim basis. So we had kind of a weird...
Who's that?
Lindsay.
Okay,
so we had kind of a weird shift on our treasury team back about a year and a half ago, where the then two members of it both departed within about 2 weeks of each other.
Okay.
At that time, we had another member inside the bank fill that gap temporarily, kind of on an interim basis at that time, and then Lindsay was overseeing it. So it was Lindsay and this other person that were overseeing it. Over time, over a period of about 8 months, they added a couple additional members to the team. About 4 months after that, they added another member to the team. So within a year, they were up to about 4 people. The first interim member of the team had to take kind of a leave temporarily. And so they were out in December of 18, roughly. Just late December, early January of 19. They were out for about...
Right about the time they completed HQ.
Yep, right around the time, actually.
Yeah.
They were here for about 2 weeks before they had to step away for a while. And they were gone for about 5 months. So they had a little warning in this situation. So they knew that this individual was likely going to be stepping away for a period of time. And I was asked to come over on an interim basis. And it was posed as a legitimate question, right?
Yeah.
It was, how would you feel about it? And I can't share my verbatim response, probably. But it boiled down to, screw it, let's give it a shot. Let's see how it works out, right? I mean, the worst case, I go back to a job that I know I can do.
Right.
I know I'm okay with, for a company that I know I'm happy with, right? I mean, the worst case was not really a worst case.
Yeah.
And so ended up coming over here on an interim basis from, we'll say January, the start of the year, start of 19, until I think the formal offer, if you will, came in April.
Oh, wow.
So towards
Awesome.
the end of April, I was officially a part of the team.
Love it.
And it comes down to culture fit. I mean,
He was a good fit. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. No, but one thing I like from that too, though, is the more and more I read about leaders, and specifically reading in a book that I'm reading right now, he's talking about people in today's age. Most of the time, if you look at a lot of people in their jobs, they stay content, right, forever. They're just no, I'm good, and a lot of them could be more, but they just don't know it, or they don't take that step of faith or whatever. And I like how you said why not? Give it a shot, do it. If it doesn't work out, I can always fall back on what I know I'm good at.
Yep.
And I think for a lot of people, need to hear that you might be in a position right now where you're being called or you're being pushed to move into a higher
responsibility role.
Yeah, like, and position of leadership where it's like people sometimes get too scared or they get, whatever it is, the risks that are involved. But I think so many times it's like I look back even on my own life and I'm like, how many times did I miss out on like an opportunity to grow, like, or an opportunity to like get into a role to lead those around me, and I just didn't do it because for some reason I was scared or timing wasn't right or whatever at the time that I thought, and I just love hearing hearing that where you're like, you know what, I just have this mentality of like, screw it, I'm gonna do it,
jump,
and now I think you could attest to, I'm glad I did it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And failure really isn't such a bad thing, right?
Right.
I considered that option. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't go into this assuming that I was going to get full-time work out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
You sort of go into everything. This makes me sound like a pessimist, but you go into everything kind of assuming the worst and hoping for the best. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
You assume that it's not going to work out the way you want it to.
Right. If your expectations are
right?
low, you always surprise yourself.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And that again makes me sound like a super pessimist, but I went into it just thinking that worst case, I learned something. Maybe I learned that I'm not a fit for that role. Maybe I learned that at the end of the day, I'm a better fit for this than I think I'm going to be going into it.
Yep.
And I was fortunate that ended up being the case. I think it ended up being a better fit for me than what even I thought it was going to be. I don't think, if I was being completely honest with myself, I don't think that I really thought I was going to move into it full time. I think I just thought that I was kind of helping out, at the time. And it ended up working out, but failure is not such a bad thing at the end of the day. It's sort of, people look down on it, I think, and they look at it as you have to be perfect, you have to get it right the first time, you got one shot at everything you do, and it's never the case.
Right.
Ultimately, I mean, I learn anyway, and maybe I'm just dumb and I have to do things 2 or 3 times before I figure it out.
We all suffer that from that once in a while.
I learn the most from failure, though. You learn the most from doing something incorrectly.
Man.
You figure out what works.
I have such a perfect question to kind of wrap things up, and also just off of what you said. So as you look at your role and yourself and your own community and your life and all of the above, and you try to think about, hey, what's the legacy that I want to leave, and how do I want to impact my community, and what's that thing that I want to cement myself in where people look back and go, man, he did that, it was great. What is that? What's that for you?
This is sort of cheesy, so forgive me going into it. That's kind of 2 parts.
We like cheesy.
This is really cheesy. I look at what I do, particularly from just like the sales side, right? And getting the right people, again, getting cool people that own businesses, working with a bank. You look at it, because it's not just one thing. It's never just one lane. It's never just deposits, and it's never just loans, right? It's always a mixture of both. But you look at it, or I look at it, as being sort of, particularly on the lending side, you're helping people make dreams come true in a lot of ways, right? And so that 30 years down the road, someday, if I'm ever able to retire, I was telling Mike, or I don't know what he does here anymore, I'm going to be honest with you, but Mike Rasmussen.
Oh, yeah,
I was talking to him the other day, and he had asked me a similar question, and I said, someday, with grandkids, I want to be able to drive around Omaha and say, I helped build that, I helped build that, I helped build that. And you want to be able to see what you did, right?
See your legacy.
That's right.
Yeah.
You want to be able to see how you impacted and changed something. And Omaha in particular is such a changing landscape right now. And it's growing so rapidly that possibility exists. Right?
I love that. Wow.
That's good stuff. I like that.
Yeah, me too, man. That's good.
Sorry.
So good,
I know. It's like, well, it's literally like making me like sit here and think like,
you're like, how do I follow
man, he brought the grandkids into this and this whole picture. Like, I'm such a picture person, so like when you're telling this story, I'm like literally picturing me in a car with grandkids driving around Omaha, like pointing stuff out. And so then Levi's looking at me, and I'm still got that picture in my head that I'm like, that's so cool. And he's like, so are you gonna say anything? No, I'm still envisioning this picture. Get off me. But no, I think that's really good, and I appreciate you sharing those things and coming on the podcast today and just sharing a little bit about what you do and why it's important. And
that's good stuff.
Good stuff, good little nuggets for everyone out there. This is why we do what we do. We love to get on the podcast, and people ask us all the time, like, why do you and Levi do this? Like, what's the purpose of it? And honestly, like, selfishly, we say this all the time. Like
it is selfish.
It's selfish on our part because we get to like dive into somebody's life and hear their story and then also get to hear about the impact that they want to make in Omaha. And to us, that's why we do this. Like, and then we want to share that with other people and hopefully connect them with one another. And I feel like that's where we make some of our greatest connections
No
is
doubt.
through
Totally
who
true.
we know. And like
Totally
you said
true.
it earlier, you know, make it through the people you know. So, anyways, you got anything left to say?
Yeah, man.
All right.
Tell us how people can connect with you. Thanks so much for coming on. How can people connect? How can you help some folks with their businesses?
Sure.
What's the best way to reach out and get a hold of Mark Rodgers?
You know, I think you and
Mr.
I crossed
Rodgers.
this bridge the other day, right? I don't have social media, so there's no social media to hype up.
LinkedIn, though. You're heavy on LinkedIn.
Is that social media?
I mean,
Yeah, it counts.
Kind of.
No, it's
Yeah.
just-
Yeah.
Mark L. Rodgers on LinkedIn.
Rodgers
Don't
with the
forget
D.
the
Rodgers
L.
with the D.
It's just like
Yep.
Mr. Rodgers.
Yep.
It's not.
And
Just an uncle.
You can't forget the L because then there's going to be some other Mark Rodgers on there that
You're gonna get the wrong
you're going to be
Mark
like,
Rodgers.
that's not
You'll
him.
know you get the right one when you see a picture of a really handsome guy that's in black and white.
Oh.
There you go.
That's it.
Okay.
That's the
All
only
right.
contact me.
LinkedIn.
That's it.
Okay.
Right
Cool.
on.
Hit him
And-
up on LinkedIn, guys. Throw him an ad.
And where do you office out of?
This building.
I mean,
Yeah.
so this building
Floor right up.
is right off of 180th and Dodge. So the new Core Bank building, you can hit our boy up. Levi is obviously here as well.
I am.
So if you know where Levi's at, you're going to know where Mr. Rogers is at.
That's right.
Awesome.
And you're going to be in the neighborhood.
Oh, is there a
See how I
question or
tied that
comment?
in?
There was a comment.
Oh.
It's just from Jesus Perez.
Oh, it's my bro.
Yeah, it's just a comment towards Levi saying, thank you, you're awesome and have been great through
Thanks,
the whole
brother.
process. So blessed to have you during this process.
Aw.
Thanks. We just closed. We closed on his house like an hour ago.
Got
Yeah.
some love from
Yeah,
the man.
man.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you guys for checking us out. Again, happy Friday. Access Omaha, Nebraska. Love you guys. Have a good one.
See you next time.